So, what if you could build $1 million company while you were also tackling one of the toughest degrees on the planet? Sounds pretty crazy, right? Well, that's exactly what we're breaking down in this explainer, the blueprint from Ali Abdaal, a doctor who did just that. Let's get into his incredible story and the lessons we can all take away from it.
First, let's just let this number sink in for a second. $1 million. Yeah, and get this, that's the revenue Ali's company, SixMed, pulled in while he was still a medical student at Cambridge. It's just wild, and it really proves you don't have to wait for some perfect time to start building something amazing.
So where did this million-dollar idea even come from? It wasn't some complex, high-tech revelation. Nope, it was super simple. Ali and his friends were taking these courses for their medical school admissions tests, and they just felt, well, they felt they were getting ripped off. The courses were expensive and honestly not that great. So they just thought, hey, we could do this better and we could do it for less. That simple idea, that became everything.
All right, so before we get into the how-to, we got to talk about this stuff going on in your head. Because honestly, the biggest hurdles that stop most people, they're not tactical, they're mental. So this first part of the blueprint is all about getting your mindset right. Okay, this is the first big one. So many of us are just waiting for a degree, a certificate, some kind of official stamp that says we're qualified. But here's the truth for most businesses. You don't need formal permission. If you're providing something that helps people and they're happy to pay you for it, that's it. That's all the qualification you need. Now, once you do get started, it's really easy to get caught up in the numbers, growth, revenue, all that stuff. But you have to ask yourself, what's your real reason for doing this? Knowing your why is what's going to pull you through when things inevitably get hard, long after that initial excitement wears off.
And this quote from entrepreneur Derek Sivers just nails it. It's such a powerful gut check, right? Success isn't just about growing bigger and bigger forever. It's about these simple questions. Are you helping people? Are they happy with what you're doing? Are you happy? And is it profitable enough to keep going? If you can say yes to all that, maybe that's enough.
So what's with this number 5? Well, that's how many businesses Ali started that completely failed before SixMed actually worked. Let that sink in. Failure isn't just some possibility. It's pretty much a requirement for success. Every single one of those failures was a lesson that paved the way for the one that finally took off.
Okay, so you've got your head in the game. What's next? Well, now we're talking about the skills that can give you a massive, almost unfair advantage. Let's dive into the essential Founder's Toolkit.
Look, you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. Entrepreneurship isn't some brand new thing. There is so much wisdom out there from giants in the field, people like Tim Ferriss, Seth Godin, Paul Graham. They've already mapped out the territory. Diving into their work is basically like getting a cheat code for building a business. Superpower number 1, learning to code. This does 2 huge things for you. First, it just helps you see the world differently, to spot problems that can be solved with a little bit of technology. And second, and this is the real game changer, it means you can actually build the solution yourself without having to pay a fortune to hire someone else. It's the difference between just having an idea and actually making it real.
And superpower number 2 is design. It's so underrated. In a world that is just so full of noise, making things look good gives you an instant advantage. A beautiful website, a clean presentation, it just builds trust and makes people take you seriously, even if you're just starting out from your bedroom. All right, mindset, check. Tools, check. So now for the nuts and bolts. How do you actually build this thing? Let's get into the practical, step-by-step advice for turning that idea of yours into a real, live business.
Seriously, don't try to be a lone wolf on this. Building a business can be a really long and sometimes lonely journey. But doing it with friends, it just makes the whole thing more fun, more sustainable, and in the end, way more rewarding. One of the biggest traps for new founders is perfectionism. Don't spend a year trying to build the perfect final product. Instead, you follow this super simple but incredibly powerful loop. First, build a minimal, viable product, the absolute bare-bones version of your idea. Then, you get it in front of real people. You listen to what they say. And then you iterate and make it better. It's a cycle. You just keep going.
Now, this piece of advice from Paul Graham at Y Combinator sounds kind of weird, right? Do things that don't scale. What he means is, in the beginning, you should do things you could never do if you had thousands of customers. It's all about that personal, manual, sometimes painstaking effort to win over your very first users and make them absolutely love you.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. Look at what some of the biggest companies did. The founders of Airbnb literally went door to door in New York City, taking better photos of their hosts' apartments.
The guys at Wufoo sent handwritten thank you cards to their customers, and for 6med, Ollie personally emailed every single new customer. Those little things create a foundation you can build on.
So we've covered the mindset, the essential tools, and the methods for building. But all of it, comes down to one final, absolutely critical piece of the blueprint. This is the thing that really separates the people who dream from the people who do.
So what is it? After all of this, what's the final piece of the puzzle? What's the one ingredient that this whole recipe is useless without?
That's it. Just start. Seriously. You can read every book, listen to every podcast, and watch every video, but none of that is a substitute for actually doing the thing. The real learning, the real progress, that only begins the second you take that very first step.
Let's end with this analogy, because it's just perfect. You don't get in shape by reading fitness magazines or by watching videos of people working out. You get ripped by showing up at the gym and putting in consistent effort day in and day out. Building a business is exactly the same. So the real question isn't whether you know enough. The question is, are you ready to start putting in the reps?